You guys can hear me on Discord? Or no? Maybe not. Let me try again. You should be able to hear me now. All right. Well, let's get started. Let me just make sure it's streaming. Okay, sweet. We'll get started. I haven't moved any of my levels, or haven't really changed any levels this week, so might take a little bit of time. So we gotta do that. The higher time frame idea hasn't really changed. We just keep talking about the same thing over and over again. But I will say Thursday was a bit of a surprise. I wasn't around for it after the open, really. So glad I missed that session. But finally, kind of, the focus most recently has really been this, right? Both on ES and NQ, relatively identical. Right, so like once we traded back into this, it was kind of game over. I don't think game over, but for buyers, obviously got the bid here as expected the first time. Offered up at the upper end. Also, you had a couple Fed comments that day. I think that helped lead to this big candle down. Right, but then that also led us towards the upper end of this balance down here. Right. It was a little bit of a bid on Friday. Now the question is, are buyers able to reclaim back into this distribution above us, right, and potentially see higher? Or is this pullback on Friday that we got, this retracement on Friday, is that going to be all, and are we going to see lower back into this? And if we do see a push down past Friday's lows, it's going to be a bit of an issue. I don't know how fast the traversal down into this is going to be. Who knows if it happens in a day or 2, 3, maybe it takes a whole week, who knows. But big issue for buyers if that's the case. So I think these are the two main rotations I'm looking to play. Obviously, like if it's downside, I don't know if I really want to participate in the downside. I'm a bull, so I'd rather participate in this rotation back up if that is sort of the move we're gonna see. I think this idea applies to both ES and NQ. Right, they're in pretty similar places. A little more volume up in this upper distribution. I know they didn't necessarily trade quite down into where this volume starts to taper in, but we still have the same idea. Right? Buyers need to, well, we actually traded back up into that on Friday and kind of fell into end of the day. So we will see whether buyers want to reclaim that and get a rotation back up into this before, thinking about what to do next. Whether it's a bigger distribution pattern up here or whatnot. So that being said, let's go into this and just clean this up a little bit. So last week, where was last week? Right here. Last week's composite. Ugh. Okay. Not really what you want to see. Kind of established acceptance below this, right, or really below this. I'm swing long some NQs into the weekend. But, looking at this kind of does not make me feel warm and fuzzy whatsoever. All right. These levels really don't have to change up here, but we did spend a decent amount of time and volume below this balance, right? So clearly not a good look. I understand why we rejected here and sort of why sellers wanted to defend this. It makes sense. We'll have to see where RTH opens and what it does. There's not, I don't think there's a level below within last week's range where I want to be bid necessarily. Maybe slightly lower if we come. I already filled a decent bit of the. Yeah, it's gonna be really hard to be a buyer if this comes down lower into Monday. Could it happen? Sure. All right, you had a couple attempts at a pivot here. And there had a couple attempts there before going a tad lower. Decent inflection point on Friday. Once you got over it, kind of gave you that imbalance, right? Got a retest of it. Maybe it gives us another test of it, and buyers potentially step in. I don't think I'm going to be an aggressive buyer down there by any means. I'd rather be aggressive if we start coming back above this, at least. Preferably just take out Friday's highs and the one time framing down on the daily. And go from there. Yeah, I'd much rather be a buyer up against these levels, right? Once we reclaim them, as opposed to anything down here. Possibly down here, but I think it puts NQ in a pretty dangerous spot if ES has a trail down into this. Let me change this real quick. Still very difficult to see the ATRs recently. Okay. Oh wait, did I change any levels on? No, I did not. I don't think we need to. Yeah, no, I don't think we need to change any levels. This one's kind of not relevant, but do I need to do levels below us? think I might have to. Okay. Yeah, give me a little bit of time to do this. I need some levels below us. Well, aside from these, do we have any big downside targets aside from this? Or is it going to be a swift move down into these lows? Just going to mark off a couple shelves that I think are important. That stuff. I mean, if it trades back down into this, I don't necessarily think I want to be a buyer. Well, for the rest of the year, maybe not. I know we still got, what, a month left? You start trading back into this. It depends on how quick the move down into this is, right? Damn. Yeah. Like if we ever find acceptance back below this, there's at no point within this range do I really think I'm going to be buying. I would have to see more. I would have to see a session or two close. Just work with more MGI at that point. No point in thinking about it. Potential bid somewhere in the middle. Yeah. We won't even talk about it. Okay, NQ. Where did last week start? Okay. Okay, so also not the greatest look. Right, and the focus last week was really this. Sort of got all the moves up against these extremes as expected. Right, we start the week off up here. Get the rotation to the lower end. Right, getting a little bit of a bid, although it's weak. And then I guess NVIDIA earnings did save it. Got a rotation back up to the upper end. Didn't go any higher, and just gave you the rotation down, right, back into the upper end of this balance down here. Got a little bit of a bid, a little bit of a pop. Whether it's short covering or not, who knows? Most of last week's volume and time was, I don't want to say overlapping with this. I'd say a little weaker. The sellers still have the upper end. Right, Friday's kind of a short covering or pop, kind of just traded back into value, or it made an attempt back into value, failed, and saw pushed lower into end of the day. We'll have to see what happens on Sunday or Monday. But it looks a little stronger. I mean, like ES, on ES's profile, they kind of spent most of, they established acceptance below their prior balance. Yeah, it was pretty clear as day here. NQ, slightly stronger. We still need to get over levels though. Yeah, we need to be trading at least above this 390. That's a couple decent inflection points last week. So I think that'll be the first big level buyers need to be above. I can, why do I have so many levels here in the 670s and 710s? This like 700 level is a decent inflection point back then, or back here. And last week it became a little bit of a mess, huh? Let's get rid of that roll gap. Prior all-time high can stay. And like looking at the composite, you maybe want to be watching this like 700 area. But looking at last week's profiles, last week's composite doesn't really make sense. Do we need to be over above these 390s? $600. Yeah, this is clear as day in terms of shifting value lower. So, yeah, buyers need to flip that. Why the heck is my phone blowing up? So watch that. Massive set of single prints on Thursday. I mean, it was a huge daily candle. It's you get a day like that, it's always tough. Usually takes time to clean up those singles. If we do end up doing it in the near future, and sometimes it just keeps going. Yeah, throw in some more levels. going to be executing up against them, but just so we have an idea of where we are. Oh my goodness. It's freaking 9 in the morning, guys. All right, lower. Okay. So value is clearly shifting lower. So I think we do need to talk about the downside. Not that I want to be a part of it necessarily. So well, we got bid. Well, I don't want to say bid. He bounced kind of where you would expect them to, up against prior value. And they took it through like two other levels we had here. There's the roll gap, your prior all-time high, like where volume really starts to kick in, bottom right up against that. So it's going to be an issue if we lose Friday's lows and stay below it, continue establishing value below. Yeah, it becomes a big issue for buyers. Like at that point, I don't think I want to be trading personally. If you're playing downside, sure, go for it. Let me clean some of this up down here. How many sessions? This was like a 2-month span here. Forget. Can almost merge all of this. All right. Let's get rid of some of these other levels. And probably just some levels you might want to manage risk at if you're trading intraday. Right, but if we're talking about rotations, whether it happens in a day or sometimes these rotations happen in a day, happen on Thursday. Right, we obviously don't want, as buyers, you don't want to be losing this area. We start doing this, it's going to be idea would be acceptance back into value, see a full traversal of said value, meaning, right, whether it makes it all the way down here or not, who knows, right? Don't need to be pushing it down here for an extra couple of points, right, if we're catching this whole rotation. But that would be the general idea. Sideways, right, similar, same idea we had up here, sideways within this until otherwise, which was exactly what we got last week. A little bit of continued weakness into end of the week. So buyers give this up. It's going to be, well, I don't want to say sideways from here. It'd be the rotation down. But once you're in this, the idea again would be sideways within this until otherwise. And same thing applies up here. If buyers are able to reclaim some levels, expecting another rotation back up, and then it's a matter of what you do from there. Do we have any questions on ES and NQ? I've not been looking at the I don't know how to see comments on Restream. Do I need to go on Twitter itself? No way, that's how that works, right? Highest volume ever in RSP on Friday. That is a little odd, isn't it? Equal weighted. ever. That is kind of crazy. Okay. Well, in terms of like overall market breadth, I don't think it's really great. What was the freaking ticker for? I forget. Ah, there we go. It's probably trickling lower, isn't it? Yeah, not the. You are up against the 50 now. Maybe it does give us a bid. You had a couple sessions of downside, and none of these really saw extremes. I'm kind of surprised. I would have thought at least like maybe the 20 stocks up against the 20-day or 50-day would have seen an extreme, but they have not. I think you can make an argument for both sides. Don't know if it's too helpful. I mean, we do know you're getting some flows back into your safer havens the last couple of sessions. That last profile in their screen is the weekly. Yes. Wait, what do you mean? This one? No. I was just kind of overlapping, or just merging overlapping value, but begins here. This is what the weekly composite would look like, or should look like, if you only use RTH hours, RTH session. Did I buy any equities on Friday? I'm gonna be not on Friday, but I'm gonna be buying Oracle. Looks decent. I'll buy Oracle on Monday, and I'm willing to buy into the 160s. Down into this shelf down here, and this other anchored view up I got going on. Obviously, I mean, we've lost this one. You're down a decent bit from highs. I still like the space. I still like IGV. So I think you've pulled back a decent bit from highs, right? In terms of a retrace from that low. You're past the 6.2. Yeah. I like it down into the 1.7s. How much are you off highs? Oh my god. Nearly 50%. I still think it's a good buy. It was one of my bigger positions last 2 years. Unfortunately, I cut it before this pop, and now I'm trying to buy back into it. So we'll see what happens the next couple months. Did well on the trade the last 2 years, but didn't catch the last leg up after their earnings. You ended up buying PayPal. Ugh. I was a buyer back here, but took it for a trade. Never really held any equity. It looks decent. Usually, I'm never really a buyer of like double bottoms or triple bottoms. I can't say I'm a fan. You're kind of pushing it. Or another attempt down here. I think this one makes sense. You kind of take out these lows and then do a decent job reclaiming it and holding. You need some kind of a reclaim, whether it's a moving average of some sort or what's ETH? Is that a ticker or is that a stock, or are you talking about just crypto? No, I'm stupid. It can't be a freaking ticker. The chart looks okay in terms of a dip buy. This is where I was buying back in the summer, back at those same prices. You probably got a decent bit of a shelf there, huh? Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good place to be buying. Chart wise, I don't know anything about crypto. I don't know crypto fundamentals. How's UPS? UPS is, I think it's fine. Yeah, I kind of like it, low key. I'm pretty sure I still have UPS in my long-term form. It's down, but they give you a decent dividend. I'm sure they'll stick around. I mean, just range-wise, you took out these range lows, and then you gap back into it, kind of holding on the bid. It actually looks pretty decent. I kind of like this idea. Maybe some shorter term options. You're still look at the volume profile. You're still kind of rejecting it, right? Looking at the range lows, the balance lows, those extremes, you're back above that technically. Maybe put on some like monthlies if we okay, I just need to buy freaking trading view. I know it might be a little hard to kind of see the moving averages here. Guess I can change this a little bit. It's the best your moving averages have looked in quite a while. 70% off right now. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna get it. I don't use TradingView that often. That's the only issue. I just use it for when EMP screams out a ticker in the middle of the day from a freaking squawker or some shit. Yeah, I'm just trying to think about what kind of trade I want to do on this. So I already have equity, but I think it's at a 110 cost basis. Like the idea would be to, at least the way I see it, to catch a rotation back up to that. And this looks good though. You have these range lows. Made an attempt there, failed. Then you gap back over it on earnings and holding. I really like it. The time frame's going to be tough. Yeah, I'll definitely consider putting out a play on this. Putting on a play. Show us your favorite tools, indicators on TradingView. I don't use much. I'm usually just drawing my own volume profile just from this thing. I use a fixed range and plot where I want it. Just increase the row size. Because by default it's like 20 or some shit and it gives you nothing. It gives you this. That's really all I use. Sometimes I'll turn on the moving averages. What's the left volume profile indicator in TW? What's TW TradingView? Oh, did I answer that question just now by showing that? Yeah, no, I'm just drawing my own. You can have an anchored one, or I mean, you could even go to like the indicators list and look at what people have made. I prefer doing it by myself. I'm just plotting exactly where I want it. But trading, some people have made indicators or TradingView indicators for the profile that'll, let's say, plot out last week's profile or weekly profiles, monthly profiles, just automatically. And such. I just prefer doing it on my own. And you can have an anchored one too, where you just plot out where you want to start it, and I'll just plot everything to the right from where you started plotting it. That one's more, I would say that one's more useful for using it intraday on like whatever you're trading intraday. Right, so like as you get more candles that print, this kind of changes. Obviously, like this already happened, so it's doing this, but I mean, this is what I have intraday on, what I'm looking intraday on with Sierra on the future side. Are there any other questions? You show your fib. What do you mean fib? The retracement? I mean, I don't really use it much unless it's on like a high enough time frame. I use the default numbers. I'm pretty sure. I know some people like to get crazy. TV native TPO has built-in session. Yeah. When race car. Would like to eventually see how you use the volume charts on Sierra charts. I'm not. Some people are like picky with like the. Well, some people like tick based. Some people like volume based. Some people like trade based. Sierra's got all sorts of different ways to, all sorts of intervals. I think it's just preference at that point. If we were to test Friday's lows, would I be bid there on a reclaim? You would have to, maybe. You would have to reclaim it convincingly. No, I don't think I need to be a buyer if we go test Friday's lows. Yeah, that doesn't look great. I want to be optimistic, but I can't. We have to reclaim those lows, probably reclaim like the opening range or IB, whatever else may be there. A couple of anchored VWAPs. Tick chart and sorry. Tick. Oh, it's difficult speaking about this because like I think when you say tick chart on Sierra, it means a different thing than tick chart on TradingView. You should restream these weeklies to your YouTube. I am right now on. I don't know how to connect my YouTube to it. It's on Minxie's YouTube though, and Minxie's Twitter. On composite profiles, you use only yes for TPOs and even the volume profile. Like I only use RTH. Usually, okay. I turned off the most recent overnight session because we haven't opened yet, and I still have Thursday nights ETH. If I usually, let me give this a second to load. Oh, it's gonna load every contract. Usually, I'm looking at all the RTH profiles and the most recent ETH profile. The most recent ETH session. Futures exchange hours and I see RTH. Well, if we're going, I forget which one's which, but technically we go till what, 15 minutes after the New York close by default. I don't like to have that like extra 15 minutes, only because like sometimes if we have like an earnings report or something, it kind of screws up my TPO, and I don't like that. It adds like an N period after the M period. So I just cut my session off. I started at 6:30, well, Pacific time, and ended at 1. But I think on TradingView you can't change that, so it goes like 15 minutes after, or maybe you can now. And then some other products, they have different pit session times, right? So I don't have I don't have coppers or silver right now, but I'm pretty sure my gold session time, yeah, my open time on with other products, I keep all sessions on the chart, ETH and RTH. I don't know, just whether it makes sense. I do it differently on the indices. I don't know why. Yeah. John was using the full RTH the other day. What do you mean the full RTH? What's the full RTH? Like the 15 minutes after 4 p.m. Oh yeah, yeah. It's just I don't like having an end period. Like yeah, it's when we get an earnings report, especially like a big one, it just screws up my TPO. I don't like it, and I don't think the volume that comes in after the close is really relevant. And there's really not much. There's not enough of it for it to be important. I don't think, at least on the indices future side. End of day bears. Oh yeah. Or sometimes when you have a downtrend day, you kind of keep selling off into the close right after the close, and maybe it makes sense to have it. I don't know. I've gotten too used to having it like this. I mean, like when we do trade higher or lower after the close, I know, right, that we did trade down there. I mean, I look at bar charts too. Candle charts. All right. Any questions? I think I'm gonna wrap it up there. Gonna end the